Hola again, Christopher Ludwig here. I told you that throughout the conference we're going to be sharing with you some insights about our program, which is covering the key issues covering the automotive logistics industry here in Mexico. And ahead of our keynote speech tomorrow morning, I wanted to talk a little bit about the USMCA, the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, which has just been agreed, ratified by Mexico and the US, and still to be ratified by Canada. Tomorrow we're going to be having a keynote speech from Jesus Seade. He's the Undersecretary for North America at the Mexican Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and he was the chief negotiator from the Mexican side in these negotiations, so there's no one else who's going to have better insight than him. But before we hear that, let's just talk a little bit about the background. Now clearly this had been a major issue affecting the industry here pretty much since Donald Trump was elected and promised to either rip up or renegotiate NAFTA. A lot of tension caused in Mexico, uncertain about whether tariff-free trade would remain or whether new barriers would be erected. And it's fair to say that up until that point, investment in Mexico was torrent. Almost every automotive company was increasing their production here, adding new plants, expanding plants. And whilst that didn't stop altogether after the agreements were announced, the uncertainty has weighed upon the industry here. That combined with a somewhat slowing US market and a change in model mix, with a lot fewer smaller cars being sold, which Mexico typically built, has been impacting things here. But the positive thing is we're kind of taking a turn now, much for the better. The agreement is more or less in place in terms of what it looks like. Canada still needs to ratify it, which is that process has begun, but could be somewhat delayed because of the minority government in Canada. So once that's agreed, which is still expected sometime in the coming weeks and months, it's a 90-day period before it gets implemented. By and large, this is very good news for the people around me in this room. It's OEMs, tier suppliers, logistics providers, because it adds that element of certainty. We know that tariff-free trade remains within North America, and that the supply chains, which depend so much on multi-border crossings, both for parts and vehicles, can and will continue. There are, however, some challenges and uncertainties that the industry will now have to face. Perhaps chief among them are new rules of origin requirements, which are going to require a lot higher localization rates within North America from what is currently required. And then also rules around labor. So there's going to be requirements for the wages that needed to be paid for a certain percentage of cars in North America. $16 per hour for about 40% of the value of the vehicle, which pretty much guarantees it needs to either be made in the US or Canada, or that Mexico needs to make some big reforms on the labor side. So there's uncertainty whether all OEMs will be able to meet these requirements, or if they can, what sort of new bureaucracy, certifications, and proofs are going to be required. So that's hanging on the air a little bit, and we're going to talk to Jesus about that more tomorrow. But I think one of the things that is clear to us at Automotive Logistics is that the importance of supply chain management and logistics here in Mexico has become so much more important, partly as a result of this. One, it's the logistics and supply chain who are going to be responsible for the customs processing certification. So they're going to have to get to grips with how we manage rules of origin and certify this. So the levels of complexity there have already gone up, and the technology required will certainly increase, and logistics management will play a big role in it. The other part of it is that, frankly, the agreement seems likely to increase costs for Mexico, either through labor or through higher sourcing in the US and Canada. And that means that the competition for landing new model series, whether they're SUVs, crossovers, or indeed in the coming years electric vehicles, is going to be fierce competition, and every cost and penny matters, and so every peso matters, I should say. And so here in Mexico, having an efficient supply chain, a high-performing, lower costs, good movement across the border, safe and secure, is becoming exponentially more important. So that's partly why we have a good turnout of people here ready to debate and discuss these issues. Other things around it are around having the right processes, the right technology, the right collaboration with partners, and indeed the right talents in the supply chain. All of that is topics we're going to be covering here at the conference. All of that are topics we're going to continue to be covering in Automotive Logistics, on our website and in our publication, and in our business intelligence. So we'll talk more about it after the event, after Jesus' session tomorrow, and indeed that video recording will be made available after the conference. But this is a complex issue. There's a positive momentum here, but a lot of things to discuss. So we look forward to learning and sharing more of that with you. Muchas gracias.